In this video, we're going to take a look at how to import or open audio files within Adobe Audition, and we'll also take a look at the basic layout of the Adobe Audition interface. There's various ways that you can import files into Audition, and we'll take a look at a few of those methods now. The first method is simply go to the File menu at the top of the screen, and then go down to Import and choose File. Clicking on that option will reveal this kind of Finder style window or Windows Explorer style window if you're using Windows. Let's navigate to the place where we've saved our files, which in my case is the desktop. The first file that I'd like you to import is the one that's called 01to10.wav. So you can either double click on that or you can single click and then choose Open. And as you can see, that audio file has now opened in the main Waveform editor. It's also been included in the Files panel over in the top left corner. There it is just there. But let's have a look at some other ways that we can import or open files as well. We can of course also go to File, Open. Again, we see this Finder style looking window, but if we go to our radio package master folder, let's go to the interview clips 2020-8-26. And there we've got Osher Williams and Charlie McDonald. I'm just going to single click on Charlie's clip just here, press and hold the Shift key on the keyboard, and then choose Osher Williams as well. So then both selected, click on Open, and they're now both opened within Adobe Audition, and there they are in our Files panel as well, living alongside the 01to10.wav. Another method that you can use is to click and drag the files from the Finder window or Windows Explorer directly. So in this example, I'm going to go to my Finder window, I'm going to navigate to all of my files just here, and this time I'm going to go to my Links folder. And in there we've got one single audio file called Pat Links. Let's click and drag Pat Links from the Finder window into the Files panel over in the top left corner of the interface. You can see a green plus icon. Release the mouse and there is Pat Links. You can also use this media browser just below, so if you want to navigate through your hard drive or any external devices that you've also got connected, you can do that just here. So here we've got Macintosh HD. Let's double click on that. I'll go to my users folder. There's me, there's Matt, that's my username. And within there, I've got my desktop, and there is my Audition for Radio Part 1. So this is just another way of getting files into Audition. Going back to the radio package master folder, let's go to Music, and let's import both of these music files. And you can do that by right-clicking and go to Open File. And also do the same with the second piece of music as well. So now you can see that the Files panel is starting to populate with quite a few different audio files. The final two files that I'd like you to import are from the Sound Effects subfolder, and these are called Sports Crowd, Crowd Reaction to Near Miss, and Sports Crowd, Goal Scored. You can choose any of the methods that we just had a look at to import those files into Adobe Audition. And there we have them. Okay, so that's how we get files into Audition, and we can double click on any of those to open them in the main Waveform editor workspace just to the right. Now there's two main edit modes within Adobe Audition, and they are called Waveform and Multitrack. And if you look in the very top left hand corner of the interface, you can see two buttons, one that says Waveform, which opens by default, and Multitrack, which we'll take a look at later. In fact, if you click on Multitrack now, you'll get this window pop up. We'll take a look at this window a bit later on. If you can see that for the meantime, just press cancel, because we're going to be working on the Waveform editor for the time being. But yeah, there's two main editors that you can choose from, Waveform and Multitrack. Okay, let's start to have a look at the main Audition interface, and we'll do that by using 01to10.wav as an example. So if you've not already got that open, can you double click on it so that it opens in the main Waveform editor window? Now there's two main edit modes within Adobe Audition, and they are called Waveform and Multitrack. Waveform is for editing single audio files, which is what we're going to start with today. And then Multitrack allows us to edit multiple audio files to create a radio package, which we'll also be doing later on as well. But for the time being, we're going to stick with Waveform. Let's take a look at the main Waveform editor window, which is just this one here. You can see that there because we've got the editor tab just at the top left corner of this particular window. So this is the Waveform editor. To make selections of any of your audio in here, you can left click and drag left to right or right to left, just in the same way as you would with text in a Word document. If you want to tweak any of your selections, just hover over the left or right edges and you'll see this double-headed arrow. That allows you to expand or reduce the width of the selection that you've got there. Now when you open a waveform, it opens in its entirety, so you see the start of the file over on the left and the end of the file over on the right. The horizontal axis just over at the top here is our time axis, and this is currently set to seconds, and depending on how far zoomed in you are, you're either working with minutes or seconds or milliseconds and so on. The axis over here on the right shows us our amplitude. So you can see right here we've got this minus infinity sign, that means absolute silence, and then we deviate away from that up to -6, -3, -2, -1 and 0. So 0 is the loudest point that we can get in digital audio. This would be called 0 decibels full scale or 0 dBFS. So just to make you aware, any audio that's close to this line here would be indicated as silence. Any deviations or fluctuations away from that line, such as this or this would be a change in amplitude. And the larger that piece of the waveform, the louder you would anticipate it to sound. In terms of playing back selections, that's really straightforward. You just make the selection that you want to play back, and you can use the transport tools at the bottom of the screen. You can use the play icon or the space bar, which does the same thing, and that will play back that portion of audio. So for example,
4.
And at the end of the selection, it just stops playback immediately. If you want to zoom in into the waveform to get greater control or accuracy, you've got various options to do that as well. The first thing that we'll take a look at is this global navigator, which lives at the top of the waveform editor. So the global navigator has this grey rectangle around the edge, and this basically indicates that we're seeing the waveform in its entirety at the moment. If you hover over the left or right edges of that rectangle, you'll see this double-headed arrow with a magnifying glass. You can left click and drag on that magnifying glass and drag inwards, and then whatever is revealed within the rectangle at the top is referenced at the bottom of your screen. And you can do that at the start or the end of the audio file. From there, you can hover over that grey rectangle, see the hand grabber icon, and then you can left click and drag that portion of the audio file within the global navigator to see it slightly more clearer. And you can go as close as you want, you can zoom in as far as you need to. If, like me, you like keyboard shortcuts, you can use the plus and minus keys or the minus and equals keys between 0 and backspace, and they will allow you to zoom in or zoom out as well. So that's plus and minus between 0 and backspace. Also, you've got this useful button just at the top here, just to the right of the global navigator, which is called the Zoom Out Full button. This will very quickly allow you to zoom out back to seeing the waveform in its full entirety. Taking a look at some more of the functions within the transport toolbar, where we saw the play icon just before, we've got other icons such as move playhead to previous, rewind and fast forward and move playhead to next, recording, which is what you'll usually use the radio studios for, and a few other options as well as some zoom tools also. So for example, if we use the move playhead to previous button, that will move our playhead, which is currently just here, it will move it back to the start of the selection. And then if we press it again, it will move back to the start of the file. So the playhead here is the point in time at which Audition is playing back the audio. So if we press spacebar now,
1, 2, 3.
You can see that the playhead is following along based on what we can hear through Audition's output. One button that I wouldn't recommend using in the transport toolbar is the pause icon. So let me show you why I wouldn't use the pause icon. If I start to play back now and hit pause, if I want to save this file now, if I go to the file menu and choose save, you'll notice that all my save options are greyed out. Now instead, I just prefer to use the stop and play icons instead, which the keyboard shortcut for both of those is the spacebar. So if I want to very quickly play, I'll use spacebar, or I can use spacebar to stop playback as well. So try to avoid using pause where possible. Another thing to look out for is at the bottom of the screen, and that's called the levels meter. I'm just going to mute my audio for a moment so you can't hear the output, which is fine for this example. But when we play back the audio, you'll see that the level meter jumps up and down. Now, the quiet levels are over on the left of the level meter, and the louder levels are over on the right. And you can see at the moment, if we just put loop playback on just here, you can see at the moment that we've got quite healthy audio signals in this particular case. The signal is peaking to the top of the green and into the yellow, into the amber kind of areas, but we're not peaking above -6, which is good, because if we go above -6, the signal level will turn red, which basically means that we're getting close to clipping the audio. If you do clip the audio, then you'll see 2 red lights just illuminate here. In fact, I can demonstrate this just now, just bear with me. Now you can see, it's a good job I've not got my speakers on because it'd be really distorted, but you can see that we're now continually peaking the audio, making it clip. Now, clipping occurs when the audio signal goes above 0 decibels full scale. That's really not desirable at all. So if you get any audio that does clip above 0, such as in this case, then I would advise that you go and re-record the audio where possible. Now, obviously, it's not always going to be possible, depending on the method that you've used to capture your audio. It's not always going to be possible to re-record that audio, but where possible, you should endeavour to record again, because your audio will sound really poor. So make sure that this is not happening when it comes to editing or recording your audio. Let's just go to edit and undo to go back to normal. There we go. But these levels are certainly nice and healthy. Peaking at the top of the green, into the yellow, into the amber, and that's good. We do have other panels and panes within the Audition waveform interface, such as the effects rack and markers, but we're not going to touch too much upon these for the meantime, and we'll come to those in other video series or lessons. Okay, so that's how you import files into Adobe Audition, and that was a basic overview of the waveform interface. Coming up next, we'll take a look at some of the basic edit tools that we can use within the waveform editor mode.